Give me a second. Okay, welcome back to the Larry Coyote Show. Hold on. They get really mad, I think, if you play music now. So, okay, welcome back to the Larry Coyote Show. It is I, Larry Coyote. Um, Doing a recap on this weekend's Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua. Just wanted to give you guys my thoughts. I had been pretty consistent about my doubts with this fight, and I had predicted that it could possibly turn into one of the more boring fights of the year should Joshua take the strategically smart step of hugging, running, and jabbing from the distance. As many of you probably are aware, that's exactly what he did. And because he has a superstar power and Eddie Hearn, who's the promoter, he happened to maintain himself as the A side through the rematch, even though he was not the champion, which to me is kind of an interesting concept. But boxing is an interesting sport that has all kinds of funny wrinkles in it. So, knowing that, hold on, I might still be technically working, and I don't want to have one thing overlap with another. Okay, so unfortunately, Andy lost. I'm Mexican, as you know. I ride with Andy Ruiz. I did not see him as necessarily a shoe-in to win the rematch unless he could catch Joshua, but he wasn't able to. So, I think a little further than that. Not only did Andy lose, the fans lost. We were treated to probably one of the poorest fights of 2019 because there was hardly any action. And even further than that, Andy lost, the fans lost, Joshua won by virtue of simply staying alive. I have not seen somebody fight that scared in a really long time. I think that if people use that as a measuring stick of the type of action that boxing can offer, because they don't watch boxing on a frequent basis, they're probably going to come back disappointed, which to me is kind of a saddening concept. So anyway, let me see. Furthermore, whoever watched it, that the fight started really early, at least earlier than most. I think 1:45 here on the West Coast. One of the things that was kind of the little bit of pre-fight drama was the weight. About a month ago, Andy was looking really skinny to the point where I was getting a little concerned. And that's because he was in shape. Somehow, within those 30 days, he completely let himself go. His father, post-interview, was on camera saying that as a team, they had one of the worst training camps. Andy had the worst training camp that he's ever had. Wasn't listening to his family. Wasn't listening to his trainer. A boxing coach. Did not have a fitness coach. Did not have a nutritionist. Wasn't even checking in. He was pretty much on his own time, running his own routines, which tells me he was completely disconnected from the fight and the seriousness involved in getting the fight in ready shape. So that's a little disappointing to me. The fact that he came in at 283 pounds was a shocker because everybody was talking about him actually getting skinny, which he was, but then came in pretty damn close to 300 pounds, which I don't think I've ever seen anybody in the fight business come in at close to 300 pounds at a high level. I don't know, man. So I think I'm disappointed more in the fact that I don't want another decade of a heavyweight boxing champion hugging and running. We've already had Klitschko doing that. People disconnected from the sport because of it. Um, Klitschko was training. Klitschko's trainers were in camp with Joshua, teaching him um, the same strategies that got Klitschko undefeated for such a long time. Now, mind you, part of the reason that Klitschko was undefeated for such a long time was that he was always fighting his home court. A lot of times he was just surviving. A lot of times he would actually knock people out, but he was far from an exciting fighter. And I breathed a huge sigh of relief when he lost. Um, enter Anthony Joshua 2 years later, showing, you know, showing that he has the potential to become a superstar, knocking people out, a little bit of action. I don't know that I was, a big fan of his, but I thought that maybe he could carry the sport. If he learns from this and takes it as a learning lesson to use as a blueprint to win fights, I think we're all in trouble. I don't really want to see a heavyweight fighter surviving 12 rounds, winning decision after decision, hogging belts for multiple years, and ultimately not really doing much for the sport to bring it forward as far as the highlight reels that we want to see as fans. So fans have boxing is kind of at a crossroads. Are we going to let Joshua simply hold belts, hold fighters, hug, clinch, jab, and run, and then call him the baddest man on the planet? No, I don't want to do that. So, luckily, we have Wilder, who has actually the more prestigious belt, which is the WC green belt, and he's been knocking everyone out, hasn't he? Whew. Did you see the way he fucking laid out Luis Ortiz? God damn. Who did he lay out before that? You know what I'm talking about, but you know, I can't think of his name right now, but it'll come to me. Um, Wilder is probably the legitimate pound for pound champion right now. I'm disappointed in Andy, but I shouldn't be surprised. I think when I saw him driving a Rolls Royce, doing the most on social media, interviews, yo-yo dieting, having bought a mansion, those are all nice things. However, when you go to that level of upgrade, you have to double check yourself that you're not going to lose the intensity that actually got you there in the first place. So, to me, that was a big question mark that was answered. He lost that intensity. Now, today, he went on social media, apologized for his shortcomings, promised to come back stronger than ever. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I am disappointed in Andy. I wish him well. I think he still has a lot of good fights ahead of him. I don't know that he's going to get another opportunity at a championship fight anytime soon. And I think that Joshua figured out that all he has to do to win is hug him. As long as he doesn't get knocked the fuck out like he did the first time, he's honestly a shoo-in. Even if he doesn't actually fight better, because technically, let's be real, he's not a better fighter than Andy Ruiz. He's just has more physical attributes. He's more physically gifted in that he's much taller, has a much longer reach. And Andy probably should have come in a little slimmer so that he can use speed to his advantage. He didn't throw any combination punches, zero. And I think part of that was that, according to his dad, he was saying that he could not put together the punches, probably because he was damn near walking around at 300 pounds, which he's never actually come in at. So why come in at almost at 280 plus pounds when at no other time in your professional career have you ever fought that heavy? What would make you think that you could actually come in at the most critical moment at the heaviest possible weight? It's disappointing. It's disappointing to say the least. Let's see, how much do I? So, by virtue of a 12-round match, the default winner was always going to be Joshua, just because he has a superstar power. So it's unfortunate that it has to be that way, but it is. Now let me pivot away and talk about tomorrow's DAZN fight. Today's Thursday, December 12th. Tomorrow, Friday, December 13th, you're going to see one of my favorite up and coming prospect fighters in the welterweight division named Virgil Ortiz. Um, Tune in and watch this kid. He's really exciting. He's from Texas. He belongs to the Robert Garcia uh, Boxing Academy, which is probably the most prestigious right here in Riverside. Boxing gyms currently in the country. And he puts in a lot of work with Mikey Garcia, Robert Garcia, the trainer's little brother, who is currently a champ at, I think, 140 and was at 147. I don't know if he still is. So Virgil Ortiz, keep your eye on this guy. He's really young. I think he's in his early 20s. He's been knocking people out really hard. For a guy at 147 who's that young, he's got a lot of upside. Probably one of the more fundamentally sound fighters. A lot of action. Talk about the TJ fights you saw. Oh, what's up, Johnny? Shit. Okay, I'll get to that. Let me put it here on my queue. This weekend, I went and saw some fights with my homie Johnny, my buddy Oscar, and Joel. So I had a company Christmas party in San Diego. Decided to hop across the border, go see my dentist, watch the Ruiz fight. I watched the Ruiz fight in Mexico, and then later that evening we had we were treated to some Tijuana boxing, Zona Norte, right, Johnny? Ricardo El Explosivo Lopez is my buddy Johnny's cousin. Good fighter. I think he fights at what, 135 or something, somewhere abouts there. Dropped the guy twice. The last one was KO victory. The first knockdown was I think it was a left body punch, a beautiful body punch. We saw about 5 or 6 fights. Most of them, I think about 3 of them ended by knockout. 3 were decisions, all action. Fighting at that level, I encourage anybody who hasn't gone to see local fights to go check them out. They're really exciting. I think I saw 3 or 2 mouthpieces flying out. People get knocked the fuck out. So it's really exciting. And in Tijuana, I think our tickets were what, $15 for damn near front row seats, and $4 for big fucking AM PM sized cups of beer. It was 2 bottles per cup. So I encourage anyone who can and wants to support local fighting to do so. So anyway, thank you, Johnny, for inviting me. I had a really good time, and I look forward to your cousin Ricardo El Explosivo Lopez's next fight. I did see him on the gram today, putting in work in the gym with Jaime Munguia, who's also a Tijuana fighter. So shout out to Ricardo El Explosivo Lopez for his victory, and good luck to Jaime Munguia on his next upcoming fight, which should also be exciting. Golden Boy, middleweight champion, and his fight's coming up in a couple weeks, maybe a month or 2, on DAZN as well. I'll announce it later. Okay, so now I think I talked about Virgil Ortiz. He's fighting tomorrow at the Fantasy Springs Casino. I'm actually off tomorrow, and I'm tempted to leave here, Orange County, jump in the car, and drive to the Fantasy Springs Casino so I can actually catch that fight. I'm not 100% convinced I'm going to do it, but I am very, very, very tempted to do so. So I don't know, man. I might go live tomorrow from the casino watching the fights if that indeed happens. Let's see. What else should I talk about? Oh, yeah. Next week, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. versus Danny Jacobs. So as you guys know, one of the lazier fighting superstars in boxing, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., son of the legend, is making his return. I think the last time he came back, I think he got his ass beat or handed to him by Canelo. Was it a year ago already? A year and a half? Anyway, he's going to make what I consider to be his last stand. Next week, I think it's is it the 20th? Nah. It's next week. Let's see. Chavez versus Jacobs. Ooh, wow, yeah. Okay, the fight is on Friday, not a Saturday, guys. And it should be on the zone. Next, so this Friday is Virgil Ortiz at the Fantasy Springs Casino. Next Friday will be Chavez Jr. At the, what do you call it? Talking Sticks Resort Arena in Phoenix. Hold on, got a call coming in. Okay, that's all right. I can. All right, so do check that out. I think to me, this is Chavez Jr.'s last stand. I really expect him to go for broke. I suspect that he was juicing about a month or two ago, but now he's not because he passed successfully too. There was rumors that he was dodging the VADA testing company. They couldn't find him, so he was kind of MIA, or at least not answering his phone, which is kind of a big no-no. Somehow he got past it. I don't want to directly accuse him. It's just an allegation that I don't think is has not been proven yet. But anyway, Chavez promises to be in shape. He promises this is it. He's not. He's definitely going to take it serious. He's not going to waste his time. He has money. So what's motivating him, I think, is to honestly push forward and fulfill unfulfilled potential, because he did start as a very good prospect. He won a legitimate belt against Andy Lee from Ireland several years ago, and I think that was probably the peak of his career, because ever since that, everything sort of went downhill. He blew up in weight. He never made weight. He didn't like to train. His dad was giving him crap about not training. His coaches were disappointed in him. Freddie Roach got to the point where he didn't even want to coach him anymore. I think he was just saying, I'm not coaching you anymore because you don't even do what I say and you don't even show up. So he's back with Freddie Roach. Yo, wrap it up. Why? Hold on. Hold on. This is important. Chavez Jr. is back with Freddie Roach. Freddie Roach is supposedly giving him the strategy to beat Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs and Chavez Jr. have both, their last losses were to Canelo. Now, if I were to go on one of them, I think Jacobs actually beats Chavez Jr. by KO, just because I've never seen Chavez actually rise to the occasion. And a lot of people are probably going to see Jacobs knock out Jr. and say, why didn't you do that to Canelo? Because I know there's a lot of Canelo haters. Hold on, let me fucking answer, Johnny. You need me to talk because you're at work doing nothing. A lot of Canelo haters are gonna want, when they see Jacobs knock out Jr., they're gonna say, "Fucking Jacobs, you should have knocked out Chavez Jr. Canelo like that." Canelo and Chavez are two completely different people. Canelo is definitely on another stratosphere. These two guys, I would probably say Canelo, if I were 1 to 10, he's a 10. Jacobs is probably 7.5 to 8.5. And Chavez Jr. is no more than 7.5 to 5. So I see Jr. getting outboxed. I see him looking slow. I see him trying to duck his head down and go toe to toe, and Jacobs dancing around him and pop shotting him to the point where he has to knock him the fuck out. What Jacobs is gonna do to Junior, he can't do to Canelo. So there's no comparison. You can't draw a straight line between those two guys. A lot of people are mad at Canelo currently because supposedly he beat an old aging Kovalev. I think that was more of a sport to actually capture a heavier belt. I do not recommend that there's 2 other champions in that division. I don't think he should take those fights. I think that Kovalev was strategic. he was a legitimate fighter. But one thing I don't like about Kovalev is he started talking shit after he got, he lost, saying, "Yeah, I'm an old guy. Yeah, they cherry picked me." Kovalev is a POS. I mean, that's the truth about it because, and I'm not. And that's not me saying it. That's Kovalev's former trainer. That actually he's been dumped by 2 or 3 trainers. Abel Sanchez kicked him out of his gym. What's that other guy's name? The last one. Fuck, man. Kovalev, old trainer. John David Jackson. John David Jackson was saying that after that was the second guy that left him. John David Jackson's actually one of the nicer guys I've ever seen. So for him to actually go off script and start talking shit on Kovalev tells me a lot. And there was no reason for him to actually do that, except that he must have had a really legitimate reason. So when I heard Kovalev, kind of downplaying Canelo's victory against him, man, that really put me over the edge because why did you take the fight? You obviously pocketed the money. So give Canelo his due on this. The fact that he's beat Chavez Jr., the fact that he beat Jacobs, the fact that he's knocked out Kovalev, these are all major things. He's a top flight guy. And I don't know why people get mad at it. It's if you're mad, let me hear a name. Who do you want him to fight? That to me is that's what it is, right? Like, oh, Canelo's cherry pick. Okay, give me a name. Who? Because honestly, I can promise you they're all on the short list, and he's probably going to get to everybody eventually. So what's the point in fucking talking shit or downplaying him? It's not like he's going to retire next year like Mayweather did and, left a long list of unfought people. So trust me, he's planning to get to everybody. He does want the big fights. He's not going anywhere. I think he fought, what, 2-3 times last year, 2-3 times the year before. He's planning to fight 3-4 times this year. I mean, his work rate is good, so I don't really want to just sit here and talk bad about the guy because I like that he shows up and performs to the degree he does. He's not a 1 fight a year guy, not a fucking one fight every 2 years guy like Gary Russell or Mayweather was towards the end, or what's his name's currently doing, Leo Santa Cruz with his weak matchups. I guess that's pretty much it. I will leave it at that and take Johnny Drama's advice to wrap it up. 23 minutes in, guys. Thanks for hanging with me and have a good night. So remember, tomorrow, Friday, December 13th, Virgil Ortiz on the Zone at the Fantasy Springs Casino. Next Friday, Chavez Jr. versus Danny Jacobs at the Talking Sticks Resort in Phoenix. Both of those will be streamed on the Zone. Both of those are worthwhile fights, and I'll leave it at that. Have a good one. Don't say I didn't tell you.